Hi, everybody. Just a minute. I'm going to set up a poll. Okay. Welcome to our live here at 1111 True Crime. It's going to be about Summer Wells. Hold on a minute. I want to do poll. Do you feel Summer Wells walked away from her, well, we'll say from the property of her home? We've got a yes, we've got a no, and we'll type a maybe. Okay, poll started. And so we'll come back and somebody please remind me. Now, there's so much to go over here, but I wanted to talk, really concentrate on the footprints because they do matter. If you go back and you review the weather and the conditions of the terrain itself, the day before Summer goes missing, it rains 3/4 of an inch, which is actually a pretty significant amount for the area. And it can muddy things, right? Oh, wow, Debbie Gazzardo. How long have you been a member, lovely? Why did this not show me? 23 months. It's not showing me on this one. Let me clear it and check the chat. Well, that's wild. I think I got the wrong chat up. Hold on. I do. We just did a live and I left the old chat up, so give me just a minute. We'll fix that. There's that part. And there's that part. And now I can pin it. Oh, we get too many things going on sometimes. Thank you, Debbie Gazzardo, for 23 months as a Starlight Voice. You are amazing. Your support on this channel inspires me every day. Cha-ching, coming through. Hear it? Hear it? All right. So in the Summer Wells case, the cadaver dogs did go all over her property. And they did not hit on her property. Why? If she met her demise at the house or in the house, why did the cadaver dogs not hit on that property leading away from the house or in one of the cars? Unless one of the cars was gone by the time that they brought the cadaver dogs. But even so, if the car had been sitting in a location, it had, death smell in it, if you will. Couldn't the cadaver? So here's my point. A live scent of Summer was tracked off the property. It had severely rained the day before. So when we look at that dog trail and we know that the dogs went down the trail, we're going to listen today about Dave Radar from EquiSearch, and he's going to give us the entire idea of where the dogs hit. There were footprints found. We have that neighbor's actual post from that time, though they did delete them. It doesn't matter because you're on the internet and everybody gets everything, a clip of it, so we still have it. Hey, Ash Cash, good to see you, lovely. Claire Coer. It was the live scent dogs tracked off of Summer Wells property, which you're going to hear from Dave Radar himself. It was the live scent dogs tracked down what he said was the driveway. The dog trail is talked about as well. So there were 2 locations that her scent was found on. Now, there's been a lot of controversy and confusion because Fred Hill, do you trust Fred Hill? I don't know. But he made the statement to Ziggy, which we've all listened to, that the cadaver dogs tracked all the way up his driveway. Then he leads her over and shows her some bones. Now, DT, Daniel from the Drunk Turkey show, has made a very valid point. Is Fred trying to head something off? In other words, knowing that that information was coming out, the actual cadaver dogs tracked Summer's scent down his driveway. He even made the Fred said something about hitting on his boot, hitting on his truck. Now, keep in mind, Fred Hill is connected to Paul Hill because that's his great uncle is Paul Hill, which is the owner of 3500 block where his residents are, Paul Hill's residence, right? So Fred Hill has become a little bit of a hot topic because we're all like, wait a minute, you live on the same road as Summer Wells, and you yourself are talking about cadaver dogs tracking down your driveway, and then you're showing Ziggy some bones that you damn sure know are not human at all. There's no way you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to bring a YouTuber on my property. I'm going to let him look at some human bones. Because even if it had nothing to do with you, you could still be investigated for a crime because human bones are found on your property. He's a country boy. He damn sure knows between human bones and deer bones, dog bones, all of that. Turns out they were animal bones. Of course they were. So DT is saying that was a setup meeting between Ziggy and Fred. First of all, would you just get out of your car if there were dogs there and just assume they weren't going to bite you? No, not in the country. You would just be a little bit more like, where's the owner? And if they control the dog, I'll get out. But Ziggy just got out of the car and, hey, was that you that passed by me? Are you Fred? Yeah, that does seem staged. But then when you look at what DT's saying, is Fred trying to get ahead of something because he's right that cadaver dogs tracked up his property? Or is Fred just not into dogs and just assumes they're all cadaver dogs and that the live scent dogs tracked up his property? That's where it all gets fuzzy. Because if live scent tracked up his property, then what would Summer Wells be doing there at all? And if a cadaver dog tracked up his property, why would Summer Wells' remains be at his property? So it leaves Fred in a very precocious position that the dogs hit there. So I thought about it and I'm like, there are other footprints. Let's look at the map and let's just assume it both ways. We'll start off with Fred Hill's idea that the dogs tracked up his driveway, but we'll just assume, because maybe he didn't know, that they're live scent. And where does that lead us when we look at the property? It's very interesting. So we'll listen to what Dave Radar says, just a little snippet. We're also going to listen to a couple of other things. We're going to look at some maps as to where the footprints were found in reference to where Fred Hill's property is versus Ben Hill. And it all tracks in the direction of the west, which is, from everything I understand, in the direction of Van Hill, which is many miles away. So if the cadaver dogs never hit on Summer Wells' property, which is what I hear, I don't know about you, but I've never heard a cadaver dog hit on the Wells property. I feel that if a cadaver dog hit on the Wells property, we would have all been like, OMG, there would have been 1,000 videos out there within a day, right? Hey, Ladybug. Hey, Catty Marina. Good to see you, Wood Fairy. Thank you all for joining us. So in this, we have to then look at what kind of dogs did hit on the property, and it was live scent dogs. Why is that so important? Because it rained 0.78 of an inch the day before. It was a downpour. So any previous scents before that time frame of that rain would have been diminished into minuscule. But yet the dog scent, the live dog scent trackers, they said that the entire property was covered. One dog tracker, and I remember this specifically, said that there was over 250 hits of live summer, live scent of summer on the hill. And that it tracked all the way down the driveway, both sides. That it went all the way down the dog hill. And this is a live scent. But every single one of these, whether they're Dave Radar, whether they're the live dog, one of the live dog trackers, which there was several, it all ends at the end of the road. Even Ronnie Lawson of Hawkins County states that scent ends at the end of the driveway, at the end of the dog trail. That when you get to the road, it's gone. So one of the things that TBI expressed to Dave Radar was that it's very likely that one of their hypotheses is that Summer was put into a vehicle, removed from the end of the road, but that it got too hot and that they released her and that she may have been lost in the woods further away. But then Dave Radar also says there's just no way on earth this child could still be in the woods and not be found. So it leaves me perplexed and a lot of you as well. Hey, Skies. Hey, Shay Martin. Good to see you. I haven't seen you forever. Good to see you and welcome back. Correct. Ellie has never talked about the footprints. Right. They just say that the scent leads to the end of the driveway. Ash Cash says, I find it weird that Dawn went down there that evening and Candace went down there too, I guess at different times, but they don't know each other. You're talking about Fred's place. I do find that strange. Nick UK brings up something that we've all had a problem with, and that's these single footprints, right? But these are bare footprints, and it wasn't just one. It wasn't just a single footprint. There's more to the story. Let's see. Let's start off with Dave Radar and get what he has to say first. And then we'll mosey on in through this, and I'll just explain what I have. And I'll share with you everything where the neighbor himself or herself went on and made posts about the footprints found on their property.
There's been reports that some dogs got sent to the end of the road of the house, and then it stopped there. Is there any truth to that statement, Dave?
From what I understand, yes. As far as the interior of the house, I have no knowledge of that working, but I did hear on several occasions that the live track took it to the end of the driveway, and that's where they lost it. And usually that means they get into a car. But again, if you look up, guys, if you look up where this house sits, and the thought possibility of a stranger abduction, it does not make sense at all.
Hold on. Here's my thing. If the searcher, such as Dave Radar, I appreciate him so much in this case, but I have to disagree. And here's why. How many of you believe that Candace was home? Give me a 1 if you think Candace was home at the time that Summer went missing. Give me a 2 if you do not believe Candace was home. A 1 if you do, if she was, a 2 if she wasn't. Okay? If Candace's story is a BS, if Grandis, the grandmother, is sleeping in her camper, as she suggests in a later interview that she took a nap, and if those boys are home, if Donnie's at work and Summer is being watched by her brothers, who's to say Summer didn't leave the property because she did it all the time? Nobody is going to convince me otherwise. Allie, Leslie, and remember Allie's best friend Leslie that was on the porch interview with Chris McDonough? Turns out she's a Hill. Oh yeah, she is related through marriage, I believe. Or maybe she's blood to the Hills. Leslie Hill is her name. Okay, but anyway, all of that family and others have stated how Summer was always missing. They didn't even believe Candace. When Candace called Allie and told her that Summer was missing, Allie was like hung up on her because she was sick of this crap. And it wasn't until Allie saw, allegedly, the actual news and was like, OMG, she really is missing. Because Summer went missing all the time. The neighbors are saying that Summer and these boys were out on the road all the time. Candace is saying the kids were on the road. And that's because she says they take the dirt bikes, they go down onto the shed area, right? They ride down there, they go by the shed, that's where Dawn went first, they hit the road, and then they loop back up, come up the Ben Hill and up the driveway, back up to the house, and they do this loop over and over, and that's where they ride their bikes. And I'm talking motorbikes. So we know that. Then we have Dawn and Candace talking about every single time these boys ride their motorbikes, Summer is running behind them, and that she can literally keep up. She's fast as the wind, according to Jody Sue. So you have to really, really look at this, because this person, this neighbor, is also alleging that not only was Summer's barefoot found, her footprint, but that it had her scent, and this neighbor alleges that there may have also been a dog print with it, and all the dogs were missing from the property. Makes you really wonder what the haydo went on there. Now, it came out in the end before Allison passed away, Hunter's mother, the young man that was with Candace and Summer and Grandma allegedly all day, the day Summer went missing. It came out from Allie. She admitted before she passed that she never saw Summer that day in the vehicle, that she lied. We never heard about Grandis returning over there at Allie's at all. So it would suggest, if you were to add up what the neighbors saw, which was Candace leaving the property several times that day, that it's highly likely that she dropped off Grandma and Summer at the house and left the property to deliver Hunter. Meaning, when that 911 call went out, and it says a mother went out for a walk and returned later to find that her daughter was missing, that it was more like a run with her car, a run to drop Hunter off. If that's all true, could Summer have went on her merry little way to walk along the road and wander down towards Fred Hill's property? Could that have been Summer's live scent, because cadaver dogs didn't come out right away? If he's referring to right away, that the dogs tracked up his driveway, it could be almost like a Freudian slip. If he did do something to Summer and would know in his heart that there would be a cadaver scent for the dogs to pick up, he may have assumed that the dogs would hit. However, if those are really live dogs, did they pick up Summer's live scent where she wandered onto Fred Hill's property? Or was she taken there? Because as we go further into this, you're going to find out that there's several footprints. And if you look at the map like we're going to do, it kind of goes from the hill to the scent of Summer at Fred Hill's to a footprint, and then another set of footprints in behind Mary Saxton's property, which isn't far from Fred's. So it actually looks like there's a trail of Summer. And I'm like, oh, and this would all be alive because it's her footprint. Feel me? Okay. Let's continue with Dave Radar and hear what he has to say. I'm going to back it up just a little bit.
and the possibility of a stranger abduction, it does not make sense at all. Only for the simple reason that you have to go, you're in a secluded area, number one. Number two is that you have to come off of a main road and go down their road, only to go back a long driveway. Right. And again, if they're all sitting there and they're all there, the odds of that happening are, to me, are slim to none.
And, and Dave, we heard a lot about the family's dogs, and it said there was reported that there was anywhere from 7 to 20 dogs. Can you confirm that?
I cannot confirm that. I know that there was a couple of dogs, but as far as that many dogs, only to go back a long driveway. Right. And again, if they're all sitting there and they're all there, the odds of that happening are, to me, are slim to none.
And, and Dave, we heard a lot about the family's dogs, and it said there was reported that there was anywhere from 7 to 20 dogs. Can you confirm that?
I cannot confirm that. I know that there was a couple of dogs, but as far as that many dogs, I can't confirm that at all.
Which that would make it even more difficult for a stranger to come onto the property.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Why does a stranger have to come up on the property? I hate it when searchers or anybody that's involved directly in the case makes giant assumptions. The only reason that they believe this entire scenario is to believe Candace. Because if you do not believe Candace, right? If you do not believe her narrative that she was up on the property right there when the child went missing and that the child was 20 or 30 feet away, if you don't buy that, if you think of it as Candace gone and Summer leaving the property like she had so many other times, all of a sudden it changes the narrative. You can't rule out abduction if it's a highway. You can't rule out being hit by a car. Even if the child isn't killed instantly, it would still be a live scent, and the person would have just picked her up, put her in the truck. And all right, I've explained this before. So when I was about 4 years old, we were on our way back from church, and my grandma was driving, and she accidentally hit a child with her car. He was on a bike. She accidentally hit him. She didn't run him over, but she clipped him. He had to go in. He had a broken arm, right? And that was about it. It was a very unfortunate accident. My grandma got help immediately. She was hysterical and praying to God everything was okay. She did not see the child. The child came out of nowhere around a corner. It didn't kill the child. It hurt the child. So there's no reason to assume, because that's where we're getting into problems, that if somebody hit a child with their vehicle, it's going to depend on how the child is hit, if it kills a child or if it just injures them severely. If this person had a clean record or a bad record, either way, they could have freaked out and put the child in their vehicle immediately because they were freaking the heck out, right? Now, the other thing is what if somebody was driving along and saw her and was a no-gooder and just grabbed her and she let out a scream and they put her in the vehicle and shut the door. There's the scream and then silence and the car just drives off. It's strange. There's 100 ways to look at this. Well, Ladybug Hunt, Dave Radar explains that he knew 3 or 4. But there may have been others in other locations that he didn't know about, so you could be very right. Nick UK says, yeah, it was strange about the dogs. If someone did take Summer, must have been someone that knows the dogs. I don't know. If somebody grabbed Summer, would the dogs have run after the truck? Like for a long ways and been off the property for a short while. But keep in mind, the only way that we know the dogs left the property is because Don and Candace said that. Because when the police showed up, magically, all the dogs were there. You see where we cannot assume that there were no dogs on the property? Because it came from Candace and Dawn, who have lied and gotten caught lying. No more can we assume that Candace was home. We cannot assume that the dogs were all gone. It really is. It's like you've really got to look at this and peel off all these things that Dawn and Candace have told us and look at the actual scenario.
Absolutely. And I would think that if she wandered away, I would think one of those dogs would go with her.
I'm showing an overview of the property. I don't know if you can see that, Dave, but I'm
cannot.
going to go full screen with it. So you guys can see this is the house right here in the middle of the screen. So I'll bring it down. But this is an overview of the area. And here's the road that led to, that's their road right alongside the 110B. What is it?
It's Ben Hill.
Ben Hill, right? Ben Hill Road. Yep. With my glasses, I could read up close, but far away, everything gets blurry. This is what sucks about age, right? Anyways, so this is the home right here, and
So satire says she did not walk away. You can see the power of survival in that little girl's eyes. She won't walk away. Well, she did. She walked away many, many, many times. And her little footprint is on some other locations less than 2 miles away. And it had poured the day before. So how would her scent get on that footprint? If it had poured, it would have erased her scent. So we have to consider that it is possible that someone took her or that she did walk away. I know, Allison, more layers than an onion in this case. Jennifer Swain says if someone grabbed her, how did they get off the hill without Candace seeing her, and would Summer really go down the hill to play on the road? Yes. Summer was known to play on that road. Not only have the neighbors said it, but Dawn and Candace always stated that when them boys rode their motorbikes, that Summer followed them the whole way. Those boys drove their motorbikes from the hill, down through the cut, down to the she shed, the Breaking Bad shed where Donnie Wells went, onto Beach Creek Road, to Ben Hill Road, to the driveway, back up to the house, and that was the loop. Candace detailed that route with Chris McDonough, saying that's where the boys rode their bikes. Don Wells states that Summer was always running behind them and to stay together. So it's possible that the boys were home. It's possible that they were riding their bikes. It's a clear cut that the tree trimmers are done with now. 3-ish, they're all packing up their stuff. They're leaving between 3 and 3:30. That could be why the boys originally are in the house playing video games, because they couldn't ride their motorbikes because there was tree trimmers. But if the tree trimmers are gone and leaving, that might be exactly what the boys were waiting for, to get on their motorbikes and ride around. Ronnie Lawson himself stated that the siblings told them that Summer was last seen not inside, but outside. I'm going off the assumption, if you will, which I said don't assume, but I am literally seeing this as if Candace isn't home, that she's actually not home because of the 911 call. It's the biggest clue we've got in this case that Candace wasn't home, because it says it. The mother wasn't home. She returned home to find her daughter missing. So Candace was gone. So it nixes everything about Candace and the flowers and the knee brace and the walking Summer to the basement bull crap. Because she wasn't home. And so at some point, there were no eyes on Summer. And she did go down that driveway, or she did go down that dog trail in order for the scent to be there, because it rained so heavy. I did all the research, It rained 0.78 inches, almost a full inch. It rained hard. So the scent on the dog trail is from that day, since it rained. The scent all over the property, the scent down the driveway would have been fresh, right? Because rain would have dissipated everything before that. No, there was still 2 motorcycles, so there were 3. One of the dirt bikes are no longer visible in any pictures. So we knew there were 3 boys. They had 3 motorbikes. They always were together. After Summer Wells went missing, a lot of aerial photos get taken of their property. In every single photo aerial position where you can see the property, if you look at the light blue truck that's on the left side of Candace's little Breaking Bad camper, you can see 2 motorbikes. You can never see a 3rd motorbike in any of the aerial shots, which is a very concerning to me. Nikki K says, I wonder if one of Summer's brothers have started talking now that they are older and safe. Very well could be. We've got all this activity over in a new place. Makes you wonder, right? Woodbury says the search team mentioned something about one of the boys making the original 911 call, and that's why the time got confused, since young kids can't calculate 20 minutes from 2 hours. Well, that'd be interesting. Marky's here. Good to see you, Marky. Haven't seen you in a while. D. Wolf says, I think CPS visiting the home the day before she went missing contributed. Could have been, could have been. I always forget how to say this. Go day for you. You told me once, I forgot how to say it. Always wondered if Summer didn't follow Candace when she left, trying to catch up with her, so she was on the road. If she did, her live scent would have continued across the pavement, right? Even if it was a little bit faint, it would still be there. So I have a hard time basing anything on what Candace said or Dawn says, because I don't trust them. So I don't see any of this narrative about planting flowers. I don't believe the peppermint story. I don't believe any of that crap. I believe there was a moment that Candace says, boys, keep an eye on your sister. And then Candace leaves the property, right, to take Hunter home. So let's continue.
Quite a bit of trees, bush, heavy bush all around it. And if you pan out, you got random homes up over here to your right, and it's just few and far between of dwellings. So it's mainly some open fields across the way, and then just a concentration of a lot of hills, valleys, and heavy bush. Talk about some of the difficulties of searching that.
I mean, on Google Earth, you can't really tell how steep those hills are, but let me tell you from firsthand, a billy goat would have a damn hard time traversing some of these hills that we were on the side of. I mean, they were very treacherous. There was sticker bushes. There was, we had sightings of bear. We had a lot of copperheads. We had everything that you could think of. The heat was just incredible. It was taking a toll on the searchers because it was so damn hot. It was like 90 degrees, and people think, well, you're in the shade, you're in the, you're undercover. There's no air under there.
Yeah.
I want
to pertinent question, and you.
Okay, let's get into this real quick. Listen to this.
Yes.
That needs to be
This is Dawn Wells explaining about the footprint.
explained.
Okay, let me explain it to you the best that I can. I talked to TBI about that, okay? So
TBI.
if you come out Ben Hill Road, okay, let me start with the sand dog. They smelled her clothes. We watched. Well, me and Candace and watched the whole thing happen.
Now, the reason I believe this is because Dave Radar explains this exact scenario that he was told by TBI. So in this situation, Dawn has someone that I do trust backing him up. Otherwise, I wouldn't believe this either. But Dave Radar makes the same claim.
So they took some of her fresh clothes out of the dirty laundry. The dog smelled it. They took him to the basement door. The dog went straight down the dog trail to Ben Hill Road down there. And The dog circled when it got down there and lost the scent. To me, meaning that she was thrown in a car and drove out of here. Okay, so the footprints, okay, if you go out on Ben Hill Road and you go west, so you go past our property all the way to the end, and you get down a little ways west up this way, there's a dirt road. I can't remember the name of the road, but you turn left into that and you'll see a bunch of no trespassing signs and all that. You follow the dirt road and it takes you all the way up on top of that hill up there, which overlooks our property. When you're up there, you can look down on our property and see our house. You're looking down on our house, and we live on a hill, so it's pretty high hill. So there's an unfinished cabin up there. This is the way TBI explained it to me. There's an unfinished cabin up there, and it rained like 2 or 3 days before summer come up missing. So they found a footprint around an unfinished cabin, and I went up there and I looked everywhere, and I don't know what they're talking about, an unfinished cabin. I found a trailer. I found 2 trailers, and the other property I was kind of scared to go up around, but I looked everywhere, and I asked them if I could see the casting, but they wouldn't never let me see the cast that they made. But so they found a set of footprints there. Okay, the dog hit on that footprint there. Okay, and then if you come back down out of the hill and you come back down towards Beach Creek, they found footprints there. And that's the only 2 sets of footprints that I'm aware of that they told me about.
And there'd be no reason for Summer to have.
She would never leave from around the house.
All right. I had a delivery of live crickets. They didn't want to leave them out in the snow. My son has bearded dragon lizards, and he ordered crickets. The guy's like, it's like 9 degrees. They're going to die like now. So anyway, forgive me for that. The phone thing is really weird. And Ladybug, you make a great point too. What keeps bothering me is all 3 of their phones being erased from 3:30 on. And that bothers me too. But I do feel it's important that we take note of these footprints. So I've got a couple maps. I've got probably 3 maps, plus I'm going to share with you. Hi, Pat. Welcome in. I'm going to share with you what the neighbor, his footprint was on their land. Summer Wells's footprint was bare footprint. Now remember, it rained the day before, so it would have been muddy out, right? And her scent connects to that bare footprint, which means the scent wouldn't have been there if it had rained so hard the day before. It would have killed the scent. So it almost I get where TBI is like, man, her scent's on that little bare footprint, and it matches her foot. The location of this is all weird. Let's look at this together. So if you look at this, and we'll get more in-depth maps, but let's start off right here. Okay, so right here, let me grab a pen. Let me get my drawing stick. Okay, right here is Ben Hill house, right? Down here, you have the Breaking Bad shed. The dog trail actually comes down right through here. Maybe I shouldn't use such big marker. Let's get something not so overwhelming. All right, so we have the little house right here, right? This is the house. That's the house. That's the driveway there with the dotted line, and right through here is the dog trail. This is where Somerset tracked, right here. And also, we have a boot print, a bare footprint down here as well, which is 0.8 miles. Not that far, you guys. Let's get a little deeper map here. So we start off with, here is Scent Alert, and this is Fred Hill's property. We've got Summer Wells property here. We have right here, right by Mary Sexton's property, which was related to Don Wells. Now she's passed, but at 178 Ben Hill Road, we have a footprint of Summer. And then we also have one over here on right near Beach Creek Road. Let's break this down a little better. So if you look at this, here's Summer's house right here. This is Ben Hill Road, or Ben Hill property. This is Summer's house right here. We have Fred Hill's right here, where he's claiming right there that Summer sent tracked down his driveway. I don't know if it's alive or not. But either way, why would it have been tracking down his driveway? Here's Fred Hill's property. Then you have this scent alert again of Summer back here. So are you seeing what I'm seeing if I was to walk? Or let's say she wanders here and gets picked up. Then we have this footprint and we have this footprint. So look at this marking. So let's take everything off. And let's go back. And let's go this way. If we were to go to Fred Hill's property, then we were to go to this scent alert, then here, it kind of makes you wonder, right? It's just so strange. If any animal, if there were any wildlife, okay, this is for every single missing person's case, whether a child, adult, it doesn't matter. Bear are not going to devour the person's clothing. They're going to leave a trail of blood. If it's a wild coyote, they're going to leave bones. They're going to leave pieces. There's going to be parts. There's going to be a scene. That's in any case. There is no wild animal that's going to be like, I'm not going to leave any sign. That's impossible. So if the child would have been drug off somewhere by a wild animal, you would see the broken new branches. Like if you ever broke a limb, it's all fresh break. There'd be tons of fresh break, which these trackers, these searchers are looking for. I don't know if you've ever been boots on the ground. Maybe you haven't been trained in that, but I have. I looked for Cassie Aon in Wisconsin. I was, shown how to look for a missing person and how to look for, what are you looking for? You're looking for footprints. You're looking for pieces of clothing. You're looking for disturbed ground. You're looking for any type of disturbed ground. But you're also looking for broken branches anywhere, because if somebody went through and cut their own new path, they literally are calling it cutting a new path, because it has to get broke for you to get through there. So there would have been a sign if an animal had done that. With all these searchers, as thick as they went, they would have discovered the remnants of a wild animal attacking Summer Wells. It would have been very evident that there was BLOOD for one, right? So yeah, there's no wild animal that's going to be like, oh, I'm going to clean this up. That's right. That's right. Aw, thank you, Jennifer Swain, for using all your hypes in 2 days on our channel. Thank you, lovely. Exactly, Ladybug. The dogs would have alerted to anything like that. That's right. Wood Fairy. Searchers stated no evidence of an animal attack. They said evidence would have been left behind. Right. Let's get into what this neighbor says. Now, I'm going to get off screen so that you can see it. This is the neighbor, Ensign Phillips, right? This is the neighbor, and this is what they share. And they are very, very vocal. They put this all in Facebook and some messages. Everybody screenshot it. They got attacked basically verbally, and people were acting like, how do we know you're the neighbor, all that. But they shared what they shared, right? And everything they've said pretty much checks out with TBI. So Phillips, we're going to call him, says, the neighbor Phillips, they found her footprints in a couple different yards. I was standing 100 feet from the dogs when they identified her scent on a bare footprint. Deputy came over and asked what size shoes my kids wear. And they told me what they had found and that it was a fresh print and her scent. Let's stop right there. They would have known if it was a fresh print because it had rained so heavily the day before. When searchers are trained on footprints, if there has been a heavy rain the day before and you find a footprint, you can tell if it's after the rain or before the rain. So this is suggesting that they could tell that it was after the rain because it would have been crisp and clean, right? My last one was Mama's Summer's Live. Aw, thank you, Nikki UK. Thank you. Wood Fairy says, why did JSB, Jody Sue Brown, take her dog to the vet on the 16th to have a stomach pump? We have never, ever heard that from anybody that has proof of that. That's been a rumor forever. And we don't know if, I mean, half of everything Jody Sue says is bullshit, to be honest. I think she thrives off the attention. But let's go ahead and stay on the footprints for now, okay? Deputy came over and asked what size shoes my kids wear and told me what they had found and that it was a fresh print and her scent. Nothing she could have fallen into, but I've been letting the search crews do their job and not disturbing where they are looking. So, being it rained a ton the day before, right there, the scent on that footprint would be why TBI was so locked on that location. Hold on just a minute. Coca Channel says JSB talks trash. I gotta agree. Allison says, if it was her scent on it, why did they ask what shoe size her kids wear? Because if the dog hit that it was her scent, it's not going to be right on that footprint necessarily. It's in the vicinity of a footprint. So they might be trying to connect if that's the person's child's footprint, but that somehow they may have had contact with Summer that would have left her live scent around too. However, if it's on this property and it doesn't match their footprint, but it does match the size of Summer's footprint, and it's a bare footprint, meaning no sock, no shoe, which is what Summer would have been, is barefoot, I'm sure. She was always barefoot, right? Then they would have a lot more understanding that it's most likely Summer's scent and footprint, which would lead them more to the conclusion that this might have just happened because of the rain before and so forth. What's up? Aw, Jack, I can't play ball right now. Yeah, they did. They were given Summer's dirty clothes. They definitely did. Okay, let's continue. This person has a lot to say. Phillips goes on to say, last time I checked, I'm pretty sure I know where I live. I was in my yard when the search crew was on my property. I heard the dogs bark to identify a scent. A few minutes later, 2 deputies pulled in my driveway on a gator and told me they had found a child's barefoot footprint right here, barefoot footprint, a child's, and that the dogs identified Summer's scent on it. Okay, so on it. I misspoke. They asked what size shoes my kids wore and if my kids had been in the woods barefoot in the last couple of days. After that, they found another footprint farther up the ridge on my other neighbor's woods. Now here's the key. This neighbor's speaking the truth. That has been validated. Everything so far is checking out what this neighbor is saying. Very important, because that means they're speaking the truth so far. And the truth is hard to come by in this case. So at some point, she walked from her house through my yard into my neighbor's yard and in the woods behind their house. Whoops. And then it says they brought out a massive, and then I missed something because they didn't screenshot it all. Phillips goes on to say another time we lived one house down from them, about 3/4 of a mile away, and have had helicopters fly over our land a lot. Cops driving up and down the road, stopping cars and looking in them, and search teams came by our house. We have looked up and down our creek and all over our property and haven't seen anything out of the ordinary. Phillips goes on to say, search crews had already been on my land before they found the print. So they were already looking that direction when they found the print. They were searching a second time when they found it. So there were, listen close. So there were adult footprints all over my land by then. Hold on. So we cannot know if it was just Summer's footprint with her scent alone, and then searchers and other people didn't see it and walked all over the area, or had there been an adult footprint along with Summer's that got masked by the searchers trotting in the area and other people trotting that area. That makes you wonder, doesn't it? Rebecca's asking, has there been any recent updates on the pig farm search? Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. I would love to know. Yes, Allison. So I said we've got to go over this and refresh our memory and stay in tune with what we have for sure in the case. These are not questionable. The dogs hit on this child's bare footprint when they are tracking Summer, her live scent on these in not one property, but the adjacent. So it went from the property of Ben Hill Road, and then it goes to this neighbor that's talking, the Phillips, and then their neighbor too had a footprint. Now in between all this, if you go this way, just a little dig, and then that way, you also have Fred Hill saying that cadaver dogs hit all the way up his driveway. But he may not know what he's talking about. Fred is like not the brightest tool in the shed, not the sharpest tool in the shed. So it could have been scent dogs tracked up his driveway. And if that's true, did Summer walk that way? Ah, Woofy's here. Hi, lovely. Good to see you. Hey, House Music. Wonderful to see you. Hey, Cindy. Good to see you. Your favorite channel. Aw, thank you for watching from the bushes of Oregon. So they found bones. The only bones I know were animal bones at Fred Hill's that he went on and on about to snag Ziggy and make her marry him. I gotta change. Hello, lovely. Seems like a really awful timeline. I agree something is better than nothing, as the parents should speak more. Right. Truly. Okay. So there were adult footprints all over my land by then. Once they found the print, let me get you back up to the big screen so you can see. Once they found the print, they called in truckload after truckload after truckload of search crews. I stayed up until about 1 a.m. and they were still searching when I went to bed. They came back again a day or two later and searched again. I didn't even know the Wells house was there until after she went missing. I've never seen anyone else on my land, but with kids being kids, I can't say that they were never on it before. Sometimes dogs will come down out of the woods. Okay. A new message, right? Because I don't get all the messages. This is how it was screenshot. That's all we got. Phillips goes on to say, I got a message from the neighbor to me, or I messaged from neighbor to me, telling me she heard they found a footprint, the one on my land, right? And telling me about the one on their land. So both neighbors are talking, and they're saying, yeah, they found one on my land. And the other neighbor saying, yep, mine too. Law enforcement had said for locals not to get involved, so we were avoiding the area. So we did not hinder any search efforts. They are not the house. They are not the house that is on the corner of Ben Hill and Beach Creek. I will not give their location away or their name. Well, now we already know all of that. Now, hold on a minute. Let me switch out of this. We're going to work on the fly, darling. Because I can't read that tiny. So here's the neighbors' messages between them, right? And it says something like, their house, we haven't looked on our land yet because we don't want to disturb any potential evidence. And we don't know which neighbor's which, but the two neighbors. Well, I had heard they had found footprints and also believed there is a dog with her. Are you reading that? I had heard that they had found footprints, which we know now to be true. And it says, also believe there is a dog with her. What? Because allegedly the dogs aren't up on the hill. Well, what if it was just one or two? See, that's where I was like, holy shnikes Batman. They believe a dog is with her too. Now, I don't know if the neighbor's being honest or not, but everything that they're saying so far has tracked out, right? Is tracked. Anna says, curious why the outfit Summer was wearing in the milk jug picture wasn't given for scent search. So there's something strange on that outfit, and I'm going to tell you why. Dolly Vision is very familiar with the Summer Wells case, and he has alleged that that exact outfit, that jumpsuit, that little pink and gray or navy outfit that Summer's in leaning up against the milk jug, and Summer's bathing suit are both allegedly in a memorial box that Dolly knows about. Yet Dawn Wells is saying that's the exact outfit that Summer went missing in. And that's why they couldn't give the dogs that little jumper outfit. So I'm all like, what? And I heard Dawn Wells state that that is the outfit that Summer Wells went missing in. So if that's true, if it's true that Summer went missing in that little tracksuit, then is it also true? Is Dolly right that that's in a memorial box? Because that brings a whole, like, what the actual fudge at Christmas is going on. So it gets very convoluted and confusing, right? Hey, Rebecca. With so many players in this investigation, how does anyone know anything? I think everyone needs to be re-interviewed by investigators. And that's why I'm sticking to the footprints today, to clear the air, and let's really talk about these footprints, because that's important. It rained 3/4 of an inch, like a hard rain. That would have negated all of her scent the day before. So if they're finding, when they found that footprint that Summer's scent was on, that bare footprint on the neighbor's yard and then the next neighbor's yard, okay? How could it be there from any other time? It really couldn't. The scent wouldn't have been there. Maybe the footprint, but the scent wouldn't have. It would have been dissipated and ruined by that hardcore rain. However, that hardcore rain of 3/4 of an inch in their area also made a muddy terrain, which means it would have been easier for Summer's footprint to happen because of the mud, right? And that's also how the searchers knew it was fresh So there's something to this. That's what I heard. That after Summer went missing, they gave away all her stuff. I've heard that. It's rumor, but... Ash Cash, oh wow, I didn't know that was a picture with Summer lying against milk jugs. I don't know for sure. Okay, Jamie is saying, yes, Dolly is right about that being. And Dolly knows this case. He was boots on the ground. He's been in Summer's bathroom. He knows this case. Now, Jamie Brown is saying, yes, Dolly is right about that being a memorial box. One of the creators showed the picture of the memorial box, and you can see the jacket. I heard, and I will find it, where Dawn Wells states that they cannot use that pink jacket and all that because that's what she was wearing when she was reported missing. So how in the hell did that outfit get in the memorial box if Summer was last seen in that outfit? Something's wrong. Something's very, very wrong. Right? It would mean, Allison, that she was there after the rain. All right, let's continue back over. I know I'm running super late on the other channel. That's okay. We got to do what we got to do. Okay. Let me see. Where's my marker? Okay. So the neighbor says, well, I had heard they had found footprints and also believe there is a dog with her. They also found footprint next to us and on our land, which is true, y'all. Did you all put water and food out for her? Oh my gosh. Can you imagine being one of the neighbors and worrying that there's a little girl out there that could be near your property that's looking for food and water? Oh, 5 years old? That is so heartbreaking. So this neighbor, whichever one it is, replies, we had not put anything out, but that is a good idea. We were just trying to avoid the area until they were finished searching. They have had search crews of about 20 people all over our land. Are you on the house of the corner of Ben Hill and Beach Creek? And we don't get the answer, so. Then the next set we have is of messages between the two neighbors. Something about their house. We haven't looked on our land yet because we don't want to disturb potential evidence. This person says, oh, wait, this is the same one. I did the same message twice. Hold on, let's go to the next one. All right, Phillips is the neighbor that we had originally started with. They're back to talking. Okay. Same neighbor told me it wasn't in their yard. This is all true, y'all. But on the ridge behind their house. And that's what Dave Radar said. It's on the ridge behind a neighbor's house. This person says, I got tired of sitting around waiting, so I went and asked deputies if we had permission to search our own land and was told yes. Now let's grab our little tool here so I can see what the neighbor's saying again. It's the only way I can do it, y'all. Then we got to do it on the fly. Here we go. Let's stretch it out. Make it big so we can see. The person's, this is their message, and the one neighbor says it wasn't in the yard, it was behind us on the ridge we own. And then it's a new day, and it says June 20-something. I can't make out what that says. Hold on. I would like to know the date when they're having this conversation. I sure would. Let's sharpen it. Let's make the contrast a little better. Take down the brightness. I would guess, and that's all it is it's June 25th, which would have been 10 days later. Now let's brighten it back up so I can read it. It says, any new clues down your way? The neighbor responds, I stopped and talked to the deputies yesterday and asked them if they want us to stay off the land so we don't disturb anything, or if they wanted us looking. They said, by all means, get out and search every last inch of our property. When I get home from work, we are going to start looking. Okay, responds the neighbor. And then it says, look if anything stands out. Mom and I searched what we could. She wasn't able, and neither am I. That's interesting. I wonder who this neighbor is. It makes me think of Don Sherfy. Remember, he always referred to the mom and not being able. I don't think it is, though. All right, let's get back on to this and see what else we have. Is this the same one? Oh, here I got it. June 25th. Oh, Lord. Here I went through all that and I had a close-up of it. It's weird that they say, Mom and I searched what we could. She wasn't able, and neither am I. Interesting. So Phillips goes on and says, I deleted it and all my other threats, which it didn't matter. Everybody had already screenshotted it. And all of my other threats, I have just tried to post updates on what I had seen with my own eyes and heard directly from deputies. I'm not here to argue with people about whether I actually live nearby. That Ellie isn't going to tell some local what they found, that I'm just here for attention, etc. I will still be watching the group for updates, but that's it. So I get it. A lot of people attack this person, but out of time, we found out everything they said was true. This person is talking to Phillips, and they posted, I heard search dogs were all over the place. Neighbors said her scent was found in his yard and woods next to him. That was from the neighbor's mouth. Phillips, the neighbor, says yes. A barefoot child's footprint, that the dogs identified her scent in my woods and a neighbor's woods. No other scent or footprints were found. Just my opinion, with nothing else to base it on, but that sounds like she was being carried and was set down to make it through the rough area. You would expect more prints if she was walking. Search crews had been all over my land for several days before the footprint was found, so there were already plenty of adult footprints there. So again, they found the child's footprint, but also a lot of other adults, and they were unable to determine if the adult footprints had accompanied Summer's footprint with her scent, and like this neighbor's saying, had been carrying her and set her down for a minute. Joyce says, if she was taken, I don't get why Candace and Dawn are covering it up. There could be all kinds of reasons, all kinds. If this child was SA'd in the past, if there was abuse in the home, if they were worried that something about like nobody being home or watching the child would take the boys away, which happened anyway. But it could be. Archer and the Empress believes that she was traded. Did they find horse prints there also? Not that I've heard. Could it be Candace's footprint? I don't know. How lazy is Candace? Is she going to go up in the woods? I don't know. It's weird how she was allegedly walked all the way down to Fred Hill's house, but didn't drive, but walked. Well, and that's what I'm saying, Katie. You're asking why no footprints from another person if she was taken. We don't know that. There were adult footprints all around her footprint, but they didn't know if those footprints were their own and searchers or something. She could have been lured away from the house. Did you ever think of the way Candace says that? Somebody come up here and lured her away? That's creepy. Hey, Sandy Gant. How you doing, lovely? Thank you, Top Dog. You think it's Candace's footprint? Could be. All right, so let's go back over and see what it says. All right, let's get the next one. There's still quite a few. This neighbor really talks. Same neighbor says, our property ends about 500 feet from theirs, but our house is about 3/4 of a mile from theirs. Due to the terrain, you can't see any of their land from ours. I saw a sign for an auction a while back, but I'm not sure where it was or what it included. I saw a post about a man being in the woods near their house, but I don't know what land he was on or the lady that reported it. Now that makes me wonder, because I don't know anything about a man being on their land and the post other than Hunter saying that Don Wells made some sort of a statement in a phone call to Candace when they were in the Walgreens drive-thru getting Candace's painkillers, that some guy wanted to touch your kids or something. That was kind of weird, right? Could that be what this person's talking about? I'm not sure. True train coming through right then, right? How weird. Again, Phillips has got a conversation going with somebody, and Phillips says, thanks for the info. I didn't know that's the land that was up there for auction. Ben Hill is a dead-end road, and you don't go down it unless you live there. So we don't know much about it. This person is responding to the neighbor, Phillips, and says, when you say dead-end road, do you mean only a one-way exit into Beach Creek Road from Ben Hill? Phillips says, in response, Ben Hill has no outlet to any other road. Simpson's Road does not connect back to Beach Creek. Simpson's Road is paved and was supposed to stop at the... Do we get the rest of it? Was supposed to stop at the top of the hill, but 911 wanted access, so they continued the road gravel through a guy's property, and he didn't want them to. There's a gate at both ends of Simpson on his property. That is his property and shouldn't be treated as a thorough road. How confusing is that? Phillips says, yes, they were on my property, not the Wells. Saw them transporting crew to different parts of Beach Creek also. Phillips goes on to say, they were on my property, and I saw crews being pulled on utility trailers and riding on gators going to the other sections of Beach Creek. Someone asked the neighbor, saying, are there ravines near there? I can't help thinking she may have fallen in or couldn't get out. Thanks for your update, praying that they find her. Phillips says, or no, another person responds, I sure hope they search that river and all along the banks. Whoops. And Phillips finally replies, it's just a creek where we live. Unless it rains for a few days straight, it stays less than a foot deep. Now keep in mind, it had rained a quarter of an inch, or 3/4 of an inch. Well, could that have made it raise up to 2 or 3 feet? Could it have gotten a little bit bigger of a creek and swept her away or something? Wanda Dupree says, to lose 4 kids, karma worked fast on Don and Candace. Just my opinion. Thank you for sharing, lovely. Ladybug says, more like 7 kids. Some say 9, but they do not have any now, and that's sad. For real. Sandy Gant says, nothing is dead in there. I saw all kinds of way per Google people could get her out of there by horse or 3-wheeler. True. I did too. Aw. I agree, Wanda. Thank you. Your heart goes out to the kids. Truly. Okay. This neighbor keeps going, and I wanted to share it all with you. I remember reading, this is not Phillips, this is somebody commenting to Phillips. I remember reading the original comment, and yes, that is what I gathered too. They wanted to know what size shoes their kids wore. And the neighbor asked if the dog barked, did that mean they picked up her scent? And the answer was yes. So Phillips answered. I appreciate the question. No misinterpretation, though. The dog barked, sounding like a hound. I was standing in the yard. I asked the deputy if the dog barked meant it was her scent, and he said yes. We chatted for a few to rule out my kids, and they searched my whole property again with search crews and helicopter. Never heard anything else about it after that until search crews showed up again yesterday. So, this neighbor has been absolutely straight up with the same information, very clear. It's all checked out. There's no doubt, there's no reason to doubt this neighbor in my book. None. How many more do I've got? Oh, I still have a ton of them. Oh my gosh. Okay, I gotta kick it down. We're really late on that other. I'm sorry for those who are on the other channel, but gotta do what we gotta do. So Philip says, I don't know what the neighbor is answering, but they say, neither me or my other neighbor are comfortable posting our addresses on here. Sorry, hon, too late. Everybody knows. One neighbor is being harassed, and that's just wrong, y'all. One neighbor is being harassed and yelled at because of people posting his house and truck on here. I've seen several out-of-state cars parking on the side of the road and trying to get through or over my neighbor's gates. Not a very smart thing to do without knowing which direction she was going. It's hard to say. One was near the woods and one was near a road. Just don't know which print came first. One was near a road. That's wild. Philip says, you're welcome. Pretty much everyone around us uses New Life garbage. The yellow cans that are in all of the pictures on Ben Hill and Beach Creek intersection. I'm not worried about things getting back to normal. We just want her found and to know what happened to her. I don't let my kids go in the woods by themselves, and I carry a gun when we are hiking, because we have several bear, just like Dave Radar said. But you still want to know who or what is harming children in your neighborhood so you know what to watch for. I feel bad for this neighbor, you guys. And then Philip says, that is true, whatever they said, the commenter. And then Philip's neighbor says, they have searched mine and all of my neighbors' yards multiple times. I let them search all of my vehicles, in my buildings, under my cars and buildings, in my creek, and every last inch of my property. We have just tried to give updates when we have spoken with Ellie or seen things like searchers with our own eyes. If that was my kid that was missing, I would want every last inch of the property nearby searched, and that is exactly what we have let them do. Truly, right? Goes on to say, Philip says, I have seen several, okay, we read that part. Oh, no, I didn't. It's another statement, though. Says, I've seen several out-of-state cars parking on the sides of the road and people trying to go over, around, and through my neighbor's gates. One of which borders my property. Not a smart thing to do. TBI, FBI, or Sheriff's Department is welcome to come look at anything they want. Armchair detectives are not. These are our homes and our kids' safe spaces. Do not show up asking to search stuff or play detective. Okay. Another time, Philip says, this whole area in the red circle is flat. Now, I'm going to show you real quick. We're going to go grab a picture. We'll blow it up big. What are they looking at? So, we'll take this over here. And lo and behold, the neighbor, where all the footprints are, is wanting to talk about where the shed is, right? How interesting. So they're showing the picture of where the shed is, where I originally was telling you that the boys ride their bikes, that Summer runs behind the motorbikes, that the kids are all going on to Beach Creek Road. It's so strange. The tree trimmers are done by about 3. They're all leaving around 3:30. We had Dawn, Candace, and Grandis, all of their phones being wiped at 3:30. It's just so strange. If the tree trimmers quit at around 3, could the boys have gotten the motorbikes going so that they could get down there and ride their bikes around the loop? And was Summer running behind? Here's what this person says, Phillips. This whole area in the red circle is flat, and the building is abandoned. There is a power line cut out, leading right to their house. Absolutely true. That is a gently slope and clear cut. Someone could park a car there and grab her and be gone in no time. Not saying I think this is what happened, but just saying it's not some treacherous climb like people are making it out to be. Truly the truth. Now, Phillips goes on to say, the guys cutting the trees out there have a very varied schedule. You might see them 3 or 4 days in a row and then not see them again for a week. There has been a crew with tractors out trimming grass and brush along the roadside also. So there have definitely been a lot of workers in the area the past month or two. So I want to go back. I want to look at the map again where the footprints are. Let me remove my little drawing. And it's so strange. If you really were to look at this, let's just, for hypothetical situation, let's suggest that Summer was actually down here on the little shed, right in here. Could she have wandered off from that shed to leave her footprint? Well, actually, it wouldn't have been that direction. It would have been this direction. But then, how would her scent get back here? So, in order for this to make any sense at all, could she have been at the Beach Creek property, just like that neighbor's saying, someone pick her up alive in a truck? Or maybe she was on Ben Hill and she came down the driveway. Whoever it was, could they have picked her up alive? Whether at this point, we don't know. Maybe they were abducting her, or maybe she was hit by a car. I don't know. But in theory, they'd pick her up here and they'd drive this way and get to Fred Hill's property, and then go behind Fred Hill, where allegedly, behind Fred Hill's house, where we see this scent area, rumor has it that a guy lives back there and his wife, and they had an old unfinished cabin where Summer's scent was picked up, and the wife burnt the cabin to the ground, allegedly. Now, there might be something to back that up. With all of you that do so much wonderful research, come up with it, because I've heard it time and time and time again. Like, people are like, what about the neighbor behind Fred Hill that's wife burnt the cabin down? That's where Summer's scent was. That is where Summer's scent is, behind Fred Hill's house. And it makes you wonder, why was the cabin burnt down if it was? But let's say that Summer was picked up, and for some bizarre reason, they grab her and they drive her all the way over to Fred Hills, and that's why the dog's hit. They go past Fred Hills, back behind there, and then what? Does Summer escape and get lost going this way? Dave Radar says no, because she would have been found. I don't know, you guys. It's a head scratcher, but I thought we should go over. Let me get you some light, because it's gotten dark since I started this. This is so much more longer of a live than I ever intended, and I'm sorry for that. DW does not want to go to jail. That's true. He said prison's worse than death. I do too, Nikki UK. I hope Summer gets found soon. Been too long, and justice for Summer. So, I don't know. It's weird that Candace ended up going toward Fred's too. Don Wells, that was one of the first places he went to, is Fred Hills. Fred Hills, the one with all the scent of summer around him, whether it's cadaver or living. It really tells me that summer's scent was over there on Fred Hills' property. And then behind his property, if you look down here, you can see there's scent there, and then the two footprints that lead off in the million, whatever. It makes you really wonder, because Fred Hill is the great grandson Paul Hill is his great uncle. So it would be Fred Hill would be the great. No, I'm wrong. Let me start over. Fred Hill, that would be his uncle. Paul Hill would be his uncle. Andy Bernard, that would be his great uncle or something like that. They're all related. I mean, that's literally it. They are all related. Don and Candace are not related to any of them. They're the outsiders. That could play into it. All I know is I want this baby found. I've been listening a lot about between Michelle Walks and DT Drunk Turkey Show. I'm appreciating both views, and I thought, you know what? I need to see it for myself with these footprints. The thing is, whether Summer was alive or it was a cadaver dog, it allegedly went to Fred Hills. It's the first place when Donnie got away from the cops and was able to travel, the father went to Fred Hills. It's where Candace walked looking for Summer. Everybody on that road was like, what about Fred Hill? Right? Fred Hill's connected in some way to the Van Hill property that TBI, FBI, and everybody's searching now. It just makes me wonder. I don't know. All right, my lovelies, that is what I have for you today. I want to say I greatly thank you for hyping me up. You guys, I've been getting that little weekly report from YouTube. The hypes are through the roof. You guys are amazing. I so appreciate that with all my heart. Thank you for the likes. Thanks for the subs, and following along. And thank you the very most for never giving up on Summer Moon Utah Wells. She deserves your love. She didn't have love the way we think she should be loved. So we're going to give it all our unconditional love to her. Say a prayer for her. Say a prayer for Jack and Lily Sullivan. Say a prayer for Sebastian Rogers. Say a prayer for all our little faces that are missing. Bless their hearts. We miss them. Even though we don't know them, we miss them being found. We want them to, you know, even if it has to just come full circle, that it's a recovery at this point. We're into so long. We just want this to get closed and know the truth so that if God rest her soul, if Summer has met her demise in some way, it would just be so healing as her brothers got older to be able to go visit a location to pay their respects. And I pray that somehow something cracks this case wide open. So that's the best I can do for you today, is bring you all the info I could find on the footprints. There's so much more, but I didn't want to overwhelm you either. I love you to the moon and back. I will see you again very, very soon. Those of you that are continuing on with me over to Crime Story Mama, I know we're a half hour late. We're going to be about 10 minutes more late because I'm going to take a little reprieve. I need to potty my dogs, and then I need to get a drink, and then we'll meet back up over on Crime Story Mama. Thank you.